Good evening everyone and welcome to this council meeting of the 16th of July 2024, which is being held here in person in the Great Hall, Ferris Boulevard, South Morang, and the meeting is also being live streamed. I'm Lydia Wilson, Chair of Council, and I'd also like to introduce my panel colleague, Administrator Peter Duncan.
Good evening everyone.
And I'd also like to introduce our Chief Executive Officer, Craig Lloyd, and welcome him back after his well-earned break.
Thank you, Chair. And in turn, I'd like to introduce Emma Appleton, our Director of Planning and Development, Agatha Hemalevsky, Director of Community Wellbeing, Sarah Renner, Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Debbie Wood, Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Janine Morgan, Executive Manager of Public Affairs, and at the table here, Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager of Office of Council and CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. I note that Administrator Christian Zara is an apology this evening. And before we begin, on behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan and Tongarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea. And I'd also like to pay my personal respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'll now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the City of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make up our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the City of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community's vision of a place for all. We have a number of acknowledgements this evening, and if I could hand over to my colleague, Administrator Duncan, for a couple of initial acknowledgements.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge that last week was NAIDOC Week, and our community joined in with the rest of the nation to celebrate NAIDOC Week. And with the second largest Aboriginal population in metropolitan Melbourne, that NAIDOC Week is a brilliant opportunity to recognise the history, culture and achievements of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples, particularly here in the City of Whittlesea. And the theme this year for NAIDOC Week is Keep the Fire Burning, Black, Loud and Proud. And that honours the enduring strength and vitality of First Nations culture. The City of Whittlesea held a First Nations-inspired pop-up playgroup last week, and it was last Wednesday actually at the Whittlesea Library, and it had games, arts and crafts and story time, and I understand that was a great time had by all. And later this month, on the 25th of July, from 10:30am till 3pm at the Gallagher Community Centre in Epping, there'll be a variety of activities and workshops featuring Aboriginal creators, including t-shirt making, emu egg painting, weaving, wood painting and a whole lot more activities. So I encourage everyone to get down there. And there's more information about these events available on the Council website. I've just got another one, Chair, if that's okay.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan.
National Tree Day. On the 28th of July, we're celebrating National Tree Day with a free, fun tree planting day at the Mernda Villages Conservative Reserve. And having done this before, it's a great lot of fun where you can then go back and watch your tree grow over the years. And it's really increasing the number of trees and green cover across the municipality, which is a key goal for Council. And we're really pleased to support these events that help the community get involved in the plantings and understand the real importance that trees play in our everyday lives. So we really encourage our community to come down to this event and help us plant a whole range of trees, native and wildflowers, while learning about pollinators and chatting with our wildlife rescuers as well, which is another important aspect. And there'll also be a range of free family fun activities, including marshmallow toasting. And I think given the weather this week, that would be fantastic. So again, all of this is available on the Council website for the exact times and locations. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I've got a few further acknowledgements. At last month's council meeting, I made mention of a number of key awards that had been presented to the City of Whittlesea, recognising the significant contribution of council and our officers. And I'm very proud this evening to mention a further recognition. The City of Whittlesea, together with Oricon, were honoured with the 2024 Victorian Landscape Architecture Award at the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects Awards. This really prestigious recognition highlights our work on the Quarry Hills Future Directions Plan, a visionary document that sets a real benchmark for partnering with traditional owners, enabling self-determination for Wurundjeri Woiwurrung to return cultural practices on country. The award citation commended the project for capturing rich heritage with proud transparency, setting a strong industry precedent for future engagements with diverse and culturally rich communities. The Future Directions Plan celebrates, preserves and enhances the landscape, fostering increased visitors while embedding Wurundjeri values respectfully. As a winner of the State Chapter Award, the City of Whittlesea is automatically entered into the 2024 AILA National Landscape Architecture Awards. Sincere congratulations to all involved in this really wonderful project. And I think it's particularly significant to note this award this evening, given that we've got item 5.6 on the council agenda regarding naming of Quarry Hills Parkland. I also just wanted to acknowledge that July is Plastic-Free July. And that is a global movement to reduce the use of plastic and subsequent plastic waste. Everyday items from shopping bags to food wrappers are a really significant part of our daily lives, but they also pose a unique challenge when it comes to recycling and waste management. And everyone would have noticed that supermarkets were unable to continue the recycling of plastic bags some time ago. We recently introduced a trial of soft plastics recycling, and residents can now recycle items such as plastic shopping bags, bread bags, cereal box liners and bubble wrap right here in the City of Whittlesea in the dedicated bins that are at Hanson Landfill in Wollert. From there, the soft plastics are transformed back into oil for the creation of new plastic products. And this is obviously a really great way to ensure that these soft plastics don't end up in our landfill, and we can really create that circular economy while making our community cleaner and greener. My final acknowledgement this evening is a very sad one. We were saddened by the recent passing of Dennis Noel Potts on the 2nd of July, and Dennis's work as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Whittlesea RSL has made a huge impact on our community. I had the absolute honour and pleasure of meeting Dennis recently, and I'll always remember his passion for organising important events like the Anzac Day Memorial Service and Remembrance Day Service, which brought many people in the community together. Dennis had really great relationships with many in the Whittlesea community, including schools, football clubs and playgroups who marched on Anzac Day. So we send our deepest condolences to Dennis's family and friends. He will be greatly missed, and his legacy will continue through the traditions that he loved and supported. Administrator Duncan and officers, if you have a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda, You may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must also make a declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Administrator Duncan, are there any items for which you have a conflict of interest to declare?
No, Chair.
I also have no conflict of interest to declare this evening. Could I ask whether any officers present this evening have any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to any items on tonight's agenda? Please come forward.
Thanks, Chair. I have a conflict of interest in respect to item 5.2.
Thank you, Liam. Your declaration is noted in relation to item 5.2. I now seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the following preceding meeting, the scheduled meeting of Council held on the 18th of June 2024. Do I have a mover?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I'm happy to second that motion. I'll now put the matter to a vote. All those in favour of confirming the minutes? The motion is carried. If we now move into item 4.1, which is public question time, Council allows up to 30 minutes for public questions, petitions or joint letters from our community to be read out by the CEO's delegate and responded to by the CEO. Any questions submitted that relate to matters outside the duties, functions and powers of Council, is discourteous or disrespectful, defamatory or intends to prejudice or insult someone may be declined. All questions and responses will be included in the minutes of the Council meeting. I note that we have received 3 public questions for this evening's meeting. In accordance with the governance rules, no introductory or background statements in relation to the question will be read out, and like questions may be grouped together with a single answer provided. I'll now hand over to Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO, to read the questions. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. Our first question this evening is from Shefali. The question is, the space between north of McDonald's Road, Epping, and house numbered 16 to 90 McDonald's Road, Epping, looks totally neglected. Does Council recognise the poor condition of this section and have some plans to improve its condition and provide a safe access to houses? Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Can I just check whether Shefali's in the gallery this evening? No. All right. Well, if I could ask the CEO to respond to Shefali's question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. The majority of the larger roads in our municipality are managed by the state government through the Department of Transport and Planning, and this is the case for McDonald's Road. The space you refer to between the road and the property boundaries has been set aside to allow for future road widening if and when required. Therefore, a service road is not feasible. We're always looking for ways to improve the amenity of our neighbourhoods, and we're pleased to advise that following consultation, we are now designing a shared path along this section of McDonald's Road for walkers and cyclists. The proposed shared path will be located between the existing footpath and McDonald's Road, with improved access provided between properties and McDonald's Road. Minor landscaping works such as tree planting and grassed areas are also proposed along the shared path, and these works are proposed to commence in early 2025, and we'll keep residents advised on their progress. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. And if I hand back again to Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. The next question are like questions, so we have grouped them together. They are from Brenda and Renato, and they relate to agenda item 5.3, Station Road Mernda Development Plan. How come it is allowed to happen that a developer, business corporation, can add and target any land and properties they don't own and add them into the development plan without consent and submit to the local council to thus impose on the property owners whose land they target. Why is it to be considered as part of the Master Plan Concept Development Plan Mernda as instigated for the benefit... Apologies. Apologies for that. Why is it to be considered as part of the Master Plan Concept Development Plan Mernda and as instigated for the benefit of the Mercat landowner and developers' proposed requirement? Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. And if I could just again check whether Brenda and Renato are in the gallery this evening. They are. Thank you. Welcome along and thank you for your questions. And again, I'll hand over to our Chief Executive Officer for response.
Thank you, Chair, and again, thank you for the questions. Later in tonight's meeting, Council will consider a development plan for Station Road in Mernda. This plan has been through a comprehensive process over the past 2 years, which included consultation. The purpose of a development plan is to ensure a coordinated and consistent approach to any future development in an area. These plans are for an area as a whole and generally apply to multiple parcels rather than individual properties. A development plan ensures any future development results in a high amenity neighbourhood with a connected street network and coordinated infrastructure provision. The plan does not necessarily mean development will occur, but it provides a guide for any potential future development. Any development would still be at the discretion of the individual landowners and require future planning permits. An application for a development plan can be lodged by any party for consideration by Council and can affect other properties within the area. When a development plan is prepared for an area, landowners are provided with the opportunity to have their say. Council undertook non-statutory consultation on the Station Road Development Plan in October 2023, which included direct notice being provided to affected landowners and further conversations on issues relating to the draft plan. Council will take into consideration feedback received during the consultation process when making a decision on a development plan application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. In relation to item 4.2, we have received no petitions this evening. Item 4.3, which is joint letters, we have received one joint letter for this council meeting in relation to item 5.3, Station Road Mernda Development Plan. However, before I ask for a mover for a motion to table the joint letter, I would like to seek confirmation from the Executive Manager, Office of Council and the CEO that the joint letter complies with our governance rules. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. Technically, it doesn't, as 12 signatories are required in accordance with our governance rules. However, on this occasion, as it relates to item 5.3, there are less than 12 properties that are impacted by that development plan, so the CEO has used their discretion to allow it.
Thank you for clarifying that, Jacinta. We have an officer recommendation in relation to the joint letter, and I'm seeking a mover of the officer recommendation, which is that Council table the joint letter and note that it will be considered in conjunction with item 5.3 on the agenda paper.
I'm happy to move a motion to table the joint letter, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I'm happy to second the motion. All those in favour of tabling the joint letter? Thank you. The motion is carried. We'll now work through tonight's agenda, commencing with item 5.1, which is the Community Grant Guidelines update. And if I could invite our Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Sarah Renner, to come forward to introduce this item. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. We're very pleased to present the Community Grant Guidelines update, and I will ask Louisa, our Grants Coordinator, to talk to the paper.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you, Louisa.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. To welcome in the new financial year, we present today a report to update the Community Grants Guidelines for 2024 to 2025. The key updates to the guidelines are noted in our report are expanding our service offerings through allowing venue hire for council venues and facilities and confirming equipment purchase and hire, as well as including a what can be funded section. This section will allow groups to understand how they could use our community grants funding from council. The remaining updates are administrative to ensure transparency and accountability. One significant change is adding who is ineligible to apply section in the guidelines, not allowing council staff or councillors to apply for any of the grants. Targeted consultation for these changes were communicated through our e-News Council subscription list of approximately 672 subscribers who were directed to the Engage platform for consultation. Consultation was open from the 11th of June to the 25th of June. 3 responses were received and considered in the final report under the enclosed attachment. To enable these changes from the guidelines through to the applications, we're requesting that grants be offline from the date of endorsement and to reopen on the 15th of August 2024. We received an email in our shared drive regarding this change from one of our neighbourhood houses, and in summary, we hope community embrace the updates to the guidelines for 2024 to 2025 with the same feelings. Great changes, thank you, and great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louisa. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
Not on this one, thanks, Chair.
I do have a couple of questions, if I could. I note within the officer report that we received feedback from 3 community members, and they're outlined clearly on page 11 of the officer report, and they related to increase in individual grant amounts, translator services to be available, review of what might be funded in relation to venue hire and so forth. I wonder if you could just indicate how these comments have actually been responded to in the policy or actually back to the submitters.
Thank you for the question, Chair. It is part of the engagement summary report, and we've provided our response for the engagement summary report that will be made available publicly.
Well, that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. And then if I could just ask a second question, which is in relation to part 2 of the officer recommendation, and I do need to note that Administrator Zara, who is not here this evening, will be particularly delighted as he's raised this particular issue several times. But I wonder if you could just highlight what would be the mechanism for the independent community member to be appointed, and what might be the associated timelines. Is it when Council next reviews the guidelines? I wonder if you can just clarify the process for part 2.
Yeah, so we'll look at this as a commitment for this financial year, and we're targeting early on in the next calendar year for the next sitting council to resolve on that matter.
Thank you. With noting the comments that were made and clarification, I'm happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.1. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I just wanted to make a couple of comments in relation to the revisions of our community grant guidelines. And I think it's really important that we've got these revisions prior to the council elections. We've been reviewing a whole suite of different policies, and we've actually seen these guidelines on a number of occasions. So I just applaud the excellent work by council officers to continue refining and improving the community grant guidelines based on the performance of the actual community grants and the feedback that we've received. And I also just wanted to applaud the fact that we've conducted a number of information sessions and workshops to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for community members and organisations to understand the administration and how to apply. So well done. And as I indicated by my question, I also support the notion of reviewing the appointment of an independent community member going forward. So thank you again. Administrator Duncan.
Thanks, Chair. Just basically ditto to everything you said, but also I think this has been a great process to get to where we are now for our community to be able to access these grants, and the assistance they're actually getting from officers at council when they're not quite sure are they eligible for a grant or not, and the help they're getting to ensure that they do get the money that they're looking for, which in turn is helping the rest of the community. So well done to officers, and thank you to everyone in the community that's also applying for grants and putting those towards really great work around all of the municipality.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, the motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.2, 485 Cooper Street, Epping Development Plan. Before we consider this item, Liam, you might wish to come forward, and you previously declared a conflict of interest in relation to this item. Again, if I could ask you to make your declaration before consideration of this matter.
Thank you, Chair. So, my name is Liam Wilkinson. My role at Council is the Acting Manager of Strategic Futures. The nature of my conflict in respect to this item is that my partner works as a planning consultant and has been engaged to provide planning advice in respect to planning permit applications on the subject site. I therefore intend to leave the room while this matter is being discussed.
Thank you, Liam. Your declaration again is noted. If I could now ask our Director of Planning and Development, Emma Appleton, to come forward and make an introduction to this item.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the development plan for 485 Cooper Street, Epping, following non-statutory exhibition. The report presents a review of the received submissions and the resultant changes to the plan. We recommend approval of the development plan, which enables the site to be developed for industrial purposes while responding to the site's very significant environmental assets. I'll hand over to Tara, Strategic Planner from our Strategic Futures Department, to give a brief overview.
Thank you.
Thank you. This report relates to the 485 Cooper Street Epping Development Plan, which will facilitate the development of the site for employment purposes. The subject site is located in Epping within the Cooper Street Southwest Employment Area, which has an emphasis on a range of different industrial uses. The subject site is bounded by Mary Creek and Marambubba Regional Parklands to the west, industrial land to the north, the Hume Freeway to the east, and the Galatambo Parklands to the south. The site has significant conservation values, including federally protected ecological communities. Some of the key features of the development plan include approximately 23 hectares of land set aside for industrial development and 9 hectares set aside for open space, stormwater retention and a conservation reserve along the Mary Creek. The continuation of the existing road McKellar Way and the extension of the shared path along the Mary Creek, and design guidelines and interface objectives addressing the interface to the Mary Creek and the Galatambo grasslands. The development plan was placed on non-statutory exhibition, during which Council received 4 submissions from statutory agencies. The development plan has since been revised and resubmitted to Council to address the concerns raised in these submissions, particularly as they relate to the retention of native vegetation. Therefore, the report recommends that Council approves the 485 Cooper Street Epping Development Plan.
Thank you, Taris. Administrator Duncan, have you got any questions on this item?
So I take it that the issues raised around native vegetation have all been resolved?
Yes, well, so officers have done a thorough review of submissions and we're comfortable that the issues raised by the agencies have been resolved, particularly because Patch A, which is very significant vegetation, has been partially retained, and that was raised in both Merri Creek Management Committee and State Environment Agency. So we feel that it has now resolved alongside everything else that has been achieved through the negotiation process.
Right, thank you.
That was exactly my question as well, Administrator Duncan, which was just to seek confirmation whether the issues that have been raised through submissions had been resolved. I'm happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.2 and I'm seeking a seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Probably the only comment I really want to make is to congratulate officers. This is a very complex development plan and it goes back to October 2022 and there's been multiple iterations leading to the current development plan that we have in front of us. And what is very clear to me is the absolute steadfast determination by council officers to ensure the best possible outcomes for this very significant site through their advice and ongoing negotiations with the proponent, and obviously attempting to resolve the issues that have been raised by submitters and other authorities, including DECA, Melbourne Water, and of course the Merri Creek Management Committee over nearly 2 years. So, well done. Administrator Duncan.
No, I'm good, thanks, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Just need to get Liam back in.
Emma, again, if I could invite you to introduce item 5.3, which is Station Road Mernda Development Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the Station Road Development Plan, which has been led by a landowner within the precinct and which seeks to guide development of the area for residential purposes. I'll hand over to our Acting Manager, Strategic Futures, Liam, to provide a brief overview.
Thank you, Emma. This report relates to the Station Road Development Plan, which will facilitate the development of the subject area for medium-density residential purposes, providing approximately 150 new homes, which will mostly be townhouses. The subject area is located in Mernda and is approximately 5.4 hectares in size and consists of 7 individual properties. New residential development will be located within walking distance to the Mernda train station, town centre, which is located 300 metres to the south. It is also in walking distance to the new regional sports precinct in Mernda, located to the west adjoining Plenty Road. The development plan application was prepared and lodged on behalf of one of the landowners in the precinct. Some of the key features of the development plan include the use in the development of the site for mostly medium density housing and a small proportion for conventional density residential. The protection and retention of native vegetation within open space reserves, a connected internal street network providing access to future homes, and protection of heritage places identified within the precinct. In order to enable affected landowners and surrounding properties to have a say on the proposal, the draft development plan was placed on non-statutory exhibition in October 2023. From this process, Council received 13 submissions from adjoining adjacent property owners, residents and government agencies. Council officers also conducted further conversations with a number of the submitters to discuss the issues raised. The submissions have been thoroughly reviewed by council officers and a number of changes to the development plan were deemed necessary. In response to the feedback received, an updated version of the plan was submitted to council by the proponent for consideration. The updated development plan is considered largely satisfactory. However, there are a small number of necessary changes to be made to ensure the plan entirely accords with relevant planning policy. These are detailed in the Officer recommendation in the report. Therefore, the report recommends that Council note the updated version of the development plan and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to approve the final version of the development plan once the recommended changes have been made to the documents.
Thank you, Liam. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions relating to this item?
Yes, I do. Are you confident that the changes we're endorsing here tonight will be accepted?
Since the report has been drafted, there's been further conversations with the proponent, and verbally they have agreed to make those changes and are currently updating the documents.
Okay. And I've just got one other question, please, Chair. Can you, I know it's in the report here, but I can't, it's gone from my mind. Once this development is completed, how many residents will that bring to the area?
So the development plan proposes an estimated yield of around 150 homes.
Yep.
With our current people per home average, it would result in around 450 additional residents in the area.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I don't have any questions relating to this item. So I will be moving item 5.3 with the following motion. And if I can run through the new motion, that points 1 and 2, A to G, remain the same as outlined in the Officer recommendation, and this will shortly be displayed on the screen. Point 3, to read, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to approve the final Station Road development plan subject to points 2A to G being included in the plan within 28 days of this resolution. Any approval beyond the 28 days will require approval from Council. Point 4, to read, note Council officers will notify the proponent of this resolution. Point 5, to read, note Council officers will notify the submitters and all landowners within the precinct of the outcome once the Station Road development plan has been approved. Point 5, of the original Officer recommendation to be deleted. And I'm hoping in a minute that we will see my motion on the screen. Here we go. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
In speaking to this motion, I just wanted to note that the recommended changes, which are reflected in Part 2A to G of the Officer recommendation, represent significant updates to the development plan resulting from the final Officer review of the plan post-consultation. The recommended changes are clearly defined and will ensure that the final development plan accords with applicable planning policy in the Whittlesea planning scheme. I note the extensive plan preparation and consultation processes undertaken in relation to this development plan over the last 2 years, including with affected landowners. We're keen to provide for a resolution of this matter within our term of Council, and accordingly the motion which I've moved this evening reflects this commitment. This includes the development plan coming back to Council if there is unsatisfactory resolution of parts 2A to G within 28 days. Would the seconder of the motion like to speak?
No, thanks, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4, Precinct 2A Doreen Part Development Plan. And again, Emma, if I could ask you to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, Stephen. The purpose of this report is to present the Mernda Precinct 2A Development Plan in Doreen following non-statutory exhibition of the plan. The report presents a review of the received submissions and the resultant changes to the plan. I'll hand over to Stephen, Strategic Planner from Strategic Futures Department, to provide a brief overview.
Thank you. Good evening. This report relates to, as Emma said, the Precinct 2A Doreen Development Plan, which will facilitate the development of the subject area for residential purposes, providing approximately 650 dwellings for approximately 2,000 future residents. The subject area, which is located in Doreen, comprises 45 individual properties, each approximately 1 hectare in size. The area is bound by Cooks Road to the north, Bridgeon Road to the south, Yan Yin Road to the east, and residential development to the west. And this is one of the last areas in Doreen to be developed. The key features of this final development plan are a mix of standard and medium density lots, providing for diverse housing opportunities, the protection and retention of native vegetation in tree reserves, a connected internal local street network, providing access to future homes, the upgrading of Cooks Road, including a new shared path, and guidelines for future planning permit applications. The development plan was placed on non-statutory exhibition in 2023, from which Council received 23 submissions. This was from a mix of surrounding landowners and landowners from within the precinct. Key issues raised in these submissions were pedestrian and cycling safety along Cooks Road, equity over tree reserves and protection, responsibility for road infrastructure delivery, and the provision of medium-density housing. In consideration of these submissions, a number of changes were made and a revised development plan was submitted to Council. An additional change has been made to that plan by Council officers relating to an additional tree reserve, as detailed in the report. Council officers consider that the final development plan satisfactorily responds to the issues raised in submissions and complies with the relevant planning provisions. Therefore, it is recommended that the plan be approved.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Administrator Duncan, any questions?
No, I've got comments, so I'll wait, thanks.
Okay. Stephen, I wonder if I could ask you or Emma just a quick question, and that is whether you can confirm the hierarchy of this development plan to individual planning permits thereafter. And you did make a note in your introduction about the fact that there are guidelines in relation to future planning permit applications.
I'll start off, and if you want to come in. So just in terms of the hierarchy of the planning framework, we obviously have the Whittlesea Planning Scheme, which sets the requirements for future use and development of land. Development plans are required to be drafted when a development plan overlay applies to land, and that has occurred here. This overlay is used when a more detailed plan is required to guide that future use and development, and the overlay gives statutory force to these plans. So the objectives of the development plan documents are to provide certainty about the nature and use of development proposed for land and coordinate proposed use or development before a permit under the zone can be granted. So once we have the scheme, development plan overlay, the development plan, and that development plan is approved, planning permit applications may be lodged, and they must be generally in accordance with that development plan. The approval of the development plan also removes notice requirements and third-party review rights from the planning permit applications for proposals that conform to the plan, and that's why I invest in such a process to ensure that the strategic plan responds to the site context and submissions.
Thank you. I think it's really important to have that clarification. And Stephen, was there anything you were going to add additionally?
Because of the fractured ownership pattern in the area, not all properties undertook various assessments which were required at the development plan stage, but the majority did. So in order to progress the plan, we did go ahead without those assessments, but through the plan they have been highlighted and the details of which assessments are needed at the planning permit stage are provided.
Thank you. Very good clarification. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4?
I'm happy to move this, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I'm happy to second it. Administrator Duncan, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you to both of you, and particularly for outlining what the hierarchy is in terms of development plans and things of this nature, because I think it can get a bit confusing. So thank you for doing that. I also note in the report that with the submitters that have put in comments to us, that quite a few were supported once they were put to council. So I really would like to just acknowledge that it's been well thought through and considered, I think is a key comment to make here. So I think that's great for everyone involved, and I note obviously in the recommendations that you will go back to proponents, submitters and landowners with the decision tonight, and based on what I've seen here, I think it's been a very good process, so thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I've got nothing further to add to Administrator Duncan's comments, so I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we move now to item 5.5, Integrated Transport Plan, Council endorsement, and if I could invite our Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Debbie Wood, to introduce this item. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. Really excited to be presenting this bit of work that's been undertaken and with some huge consultation with our community as well. But I have Russell here with me today who will take you through the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Debbie, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, I am pleased to present you with the Integrated Transport Plan 2024 to 2034, or the ITP, for Council endorsement. The ITP sets out a high-level vision for transport planning in the municipality over the next 10 years. It will allow Council to strategically plan for and respond to future challenges and opportunities. It informs advocacy for our transport needs and guides the development and expansion of the transport network in the City of Whittlesea. The ITP will demonstrate Council's leadership and commitment to improving transport outcomes in the municipality. It will also help guide future investment decisions. The ITP aims to support a transport system that offers the community a wider range of convenient transport choices and tackles affordability issues associated to car dependency. If the ITP is fully implemented, the community can expect to benefit from greater social connections and improved access to employment and recreation. The development of the ITP has been shaped by community and stakeholder consultation and a peer review to ensure that the approach was well informed and balanced. In conclusion, I ask that Council supports the Officer's recommendation to endorse the Integrated Transport Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
No, Chair.
I also have no questions, but I am happy to move the Officer recommendation for item 5.5, and I'm seeking a seconder.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Russell, I really just wanted to congratulate you and the team. This is fantastic work. It's a really comprehensive 10-year plan, obviously to support our residents, businesses, visitors to the city in being able to move around the municipality. And it provides that framework to obviously address current but also future transport needs. to make sure that things are running as efficiently and sustainably as possible. So for me, it's a really important and exciting step forward. You noted, and Debbie had noted, the extensive community consultation that has occurred in the development of this plan, even with our business advisory panel, and I really applaud that. And clearly a number of critical issues, such as public transport availability, things we're only too well aware of, such as traffic congestion, poor infrastructure, and obviously the need for improved cycling and walking infrastructure all came up through that community consultation. And so I want to also extend our thanks to the many people who have contributed to the development of the Integrated Transport Plan. I think it is brilliant. And I just also wanted to highlight a really important part of it, and that is that the action plan that is attached to the Integrated Transport Plan will be reviewed every 2 years so that Council can keep track of the achievement against the plan, but also ensure that it's relevant and also evolutionary as things change. So congratulations. I think it's absolutely brilliant work. Administrator Duncan.
I think you've summed it up. Thanks, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Item 5.6, Quarry Hills Parkland naming. And again, Debbie, if I could invite you to provide an introduction to this item.
Thank you, Chair. Another important piece of work. And this one's just proposing to formally name what is currently known as the Quarry Hills Precinct. But I have Tim here, our Acting Manager of Urban Design and Transport, just to take you through the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So recommended for endorsement tonight is the formal naming of Bunjil-Nunga Parkland, currently known as Quarry Hills. Quarry Hills is a key landscape feature of our municipality. At 1,100 hectares in its ultimate size, it is a unique regional parkland for the north of Melbourne, which is managed and activated currently by Council. The future of the parkland is guided by the Quarry Hills Future Direction Plan, a co-developed plan between the City of Whittlesea and the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. And it is worth noting that the Future Directions Plan has already received an industry award and a Magali Award from Reconciliation Victoria. This just further acknowledges and reaffirms the plan's relevance and importance. During the Directions Plan development, a cultural value study was undertaken and identified Quarry Hills as the Bunjil-Nunga cultural landscape. Following Aboriginal naming rules, Bunjil-Nunga Parkland was nominated by the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Corporation as the future park name. Community consultation of the proposed parkland naming has been completed in accordance with the naming rules for places in Victoria. Over 160 community members provided their feedback, with majority supporting the change. The City of Whittlesea values all feedback and acknowledges the community's diverse views while honouring the cultural significance of the proposed new name. Naming the parkland as Bunjil-Nunga Parkland is a meaningful step towards fostering understanding and respecting Aboriginal culture and enhancing public knowledge of the cultural importance of this parkland. Following the completion of the formal naming process with Geographic Names Victoria, Council will upgrade the Quarry Hills Parkland signage to include both the new name and the former name temporarily, to facilitate the community's transition over the next couple of years. Officers recommend that Council endorse the formal naming process of Quarry Hills Parkland to be known as Bunjil-Nunga Parkland with the Geographic Names Victoria. I just wanted to thank all stakeholders, especially the traditional owners, for their contributions and support, and just acknowledge the great work that the team has done, the Landscape and Open Space Planning team.
Thank you very much, Tim. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
Just one question, Chair. Can you confirm that this is obviously a culturally significant site at Quarry Hills Parkland, And can you confirm that there are artefacts and ceremonial sites that have been found at the land?
I believe, yeah. Sorry, Sepid is the officer who's got the more technical knowledge. I believe so, yeah. Is that correct? Sorry.
Thank you for your question. Yes, as part of cultural values study, artifacts have been identified in Quarry Hills Parkland.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Chair. Just makes sense then about what we've done here, so well done.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I've got no questions relating to this item, but I am seeking a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.6.
I'm happy to move this, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I'm happy to second the officer recommendation. Administrator Duncan.
Just quickly, Chair, thank you for all the work that's been done on the naming of this, and as you've mentioned that it will still have Quarry Hills Parkland as well as an adjoining name. So thank you for doing that, and as we all know, this is a significant piece of land within the municipality that has many attachments to our community in terms of things like Aboriginal heritage and those sorts of things, but also our local community. So it's going to be very nice to see this whole area developed, which is what we're doing, and obviously on top of the hill, the home of the Aboriginal gathering place. So well done to everyone.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and should I say ditto, ditto? I agree with the comments that Administrator Duncan has made, and I move the motion for endorsement. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.7, Draft Mill Park Place Framework. And again, Debbie, if I could ask you to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Another exciting bit of work. It's just an exciting night, I think. But this is for the Mill Park framework. It's really important that our community have these frameworks so they can get around and work and live in these locations. But I have Jared here, who is our Senior Urban Designer, just to talk you through the report. Thanks, Chair.
Right, thank you, Debbie, Chair and Administrators. The Draft Mill Park Place Framework is an approved community action plan for 2024-2025. It applies the Whittlesea 2040 goals locally to Mill Park and outlines an overarching vision replete with challenges and opportunities, key themes and place projects. The framework aims to guide and prioritise future city-shaping opportunities to drive effective change within Mill Park. 4 key themes and 11 key place-shaping projects have been identified in the draft framework. These have been developed collaboratively with a range of council teams and a community reference group made up of 10 community members that live or work in Mill Park. The 11 place projects have been broken up into 2 categories: short and medium-term projects and long-term and advocacy projects. The short and medium-term projects include safer streets to schools, improving community hubs, revitalising key destinations, reimagining key corridors, upgrading parks and safety, and improving walkability and navigation. Now, this was identified as a key challenge for Mill Park. Long-term projects and advocacies include advocating to improve major road corridors, improvements to Darebin Creek and Plenty Road corridors, improvements in and around town centres. We are aiming to ask the community to prioritise these projects via consultation and identify any other great ideas that should be included. As part of the community consultation process, officers will seek feedback from the Youth Council and other stakeholders. Our officer recommendation is that Council endorse the draft Mill Park Place Framework to go out for community consultation between the 22nd of July to the 25th of August this year. A subsequent report will take on the findings for this consultation and inform the final Mill Park Place Framework. This will be presented back to the newly appointed Council, seeking approval for adoption in the first half of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jared. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions in relation to this item? I've just got one question, and that is that there's reference within the officer report to the community reference group that was established. I wonder if you can just clarify who are they, how many members roughly, and how did we select them?
That's a good question. Tim, how were they selected?
Oh, sorry.
So there was roughly 10 members, and they were all kind of known to our community development officers and council staff already for being active community members within the Mill Park community, and they were all invited as an expression of interest. With the final 10 that we had were on the reference group.
Excellent.
Present a diverse range of ages and backgrounds, genders, all that sort of stuff.
Thank you. Excellent. We'll try not to have any more musical chairs this evening.
Need another seat, Chair.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.7. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Just a couple of comments. I'm really equally excited as officers to now be having the Draft Mill Park Place framework out for public exhibition and really inviting the community to have their say on the framework, and it's going to be out for further consultation despite the fact that we've already had the community reference group from the 29th of July to the 25th of August. We really want to encourage people to come forward and put forward their views regarding what's important for them in relation to public spaces, our streets, community precincts and infrastructure. So I'm really looking forward to, well actually we won't be having the pleasure to endorse the final Mill Park Place framework, but really looking forward to having the community comment coming in, and thanks for all of the efforts of council officers. Administrator Duncan.
No thanks, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.8, Tender 2024-3, construction of a signalised intersection at Findon Road and Williamsons Road, South Morang. And again, Debbie, over to you for an introduction to this item.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just hand straight to Morris to go through the report with you, and we'll try and do it with one officer this time, Chair.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Debbie. The purpose of this report is to consider the awarding of a contract to construct the upgrading of the existing intersection at Findon Road and Williamsons Road, South Morang, to a signalised intersection. The intersection upgrade follows the completion of the Findon Road missing link from Williamsons Road to Danaher Drive in June last year, and the services relocation works that are currently underway. The works in this contract include road widening, drainage, traffic signals, street lights and landscaping. And the full upgrade will cater to all turning movements, including buses, improve the safety of all road users, including pedestrians, improve access to community facilities such as schools, the train station and shopping centres, and encourage development of adjacent commercial land. In terms of sustainability, the recommended contract is committed to sustainable business practices and reducing carbon emissions in constructing the intersection through the use of more sustainable construction materials. Communication. Information regarding the proposed works will be provided via Council's communication channels with extensive traffic management in place during the works. The project is due to commence later this year with a duration of about 12 months. The best value tender was evaluated to be BMD Constructions Proprietary Limited, and it is recommended that this contract is awarded to BMD Constructions Proprietary Limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Morris. Any questions, Administrator Duncan?
No, Chair.
I also have no questions on this item. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.8?
Happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, and I'm happy to second this item. Administrator Duncan.
All I'll say is this is fantastic, because I'm all for anything that can ease congestion or get you to where you need to get to quicker, so well done to everybody.
Thank you.
And I echo those comments. I think this is just the final important thing to complete the works and to help streamline traffic flows. So thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.9, Councillor Expense and Support Policy. And if I could invite Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO, to introduce this item. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. In June this year, the Local Government Amendment Governance and Integrity Act 2024 came into operation. So the purpose of the new Act was to make amendments to the Local Government Act 2020 to ensure our incoming elected councillors have the most current councillor expense and support policy to guide them through their next term. Amendments were made to the policy to capture the new Act requirements. For example, there is now a mandatory requirement for all councillors to undertake professional development annually. There is a requirement for the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to undertake mandatory training within 1 month of being appointed to those roles. There is a part in the policy around the inclusion of when council will and will not indemnify councillors, and what actions need to be followed if a councillor is charged with an offence. So officers are seeking council support of the recommendation before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Administrator Duncan, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No, Chair.
I also have no questions, but I am happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.9. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. All I really just wanted to say is obviously we've been making further refinements and improvements to the whole suite of our governance policies, and this is just one further policy in that suite with improvements prior to the council elections. And as you noted, Jacinta, it's really important that we cover off on the new requirements of the Local Government Act, as well as other minor cosmetic and administrative changes. I just wanted to note that the policy is really clear, easy to navigate, and incredibly comprehensive in relation to the support and resources available for councillors, but also equally their obligations in relation to professional development, approval processes, reporting and acquittal of expenses. So I think a really good policy, and it's good to see it updated before our departure. So thank you for all the work that you and other staff have done on our suite of governance policies. Administrator Duncan.
No, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, the motion is carried. Thank you. I note that there are no notices of motion. Administrator Duncan, do you have any items of urgent business?
No, Chair.
I also have no items of urgent business. But if we move to reports of council representatives and the CEO update, Administrator Duncan, can I invite you just to provide a brief update to the council and members of the public?
Yes, Chair. I did my once-a-month regular catch-up on Plenty Valley FM, which is always good to share information about what's happening in the community, council briefing, and then obviously tonight the scheduled council meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And if I could just also cover off on a couple of really important things. Along with our Director of Community Wellbeing, I had the absolute pleasure to attend our Refugee Week event, which was incredibly well attended. It was oversubscribed here in the Great Hall, and we had the great privilege of having the Chair of the Multicultural Commission, Viv Nguyen, coming along to speak, which was really quite a moving presentation, and it was a great event. I attended the last meeting of our Business Advisory Panel, which is always a wonderful meeting full of really important items, and just hearing from businesses small and large across the municipality. As Chair of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation. I attended our last board meeting again with our Director of Community Wellbeing, and that was a very important agenda with a number of key items. And then equally, as Administrator Duncan, I had the pleasure of doing the Plenty Valley FM radio program as well. It's always a great delight to be on radio and talking to Plenty Valley FM. So that's really some of the key highlights for me over the last month. And if I could ask now our CEO to provide an update to both the Council and members of the public of key activities over the past month. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Chair. We're pleased to announce the new skate park and youth area is now open at the Whittlesea Public Gardens in Lalor. The main feature of this $2 million project is a 100-metre long street-style skate park, suitable for skaters of all ages and abilities. The upgrade has also delivered half-court basketball and netball courts, a rock climbing wall, a kickabout space with soccer goals and an eye-catching mural. The Whittlesea Public Gardens redevelopment is funded by Council, with also contributions from the Victorian Government's Growing Suburbs Fund. And the community is invited to the official opening of the skate park and urban zone on Saturday the 27th of July from 2 p.m, where there'll be skateboarding, roller skating workshops, a DJ and food trucks. I'm delighted to say that the construction of one of our key projects, the Aboriginal Gathering Place, is anticipated to commence next week. The Aboriginal Gathering Place, located at Bunjilnunga Parkland, Quarry Hills, as was determined earlier on in the meeting, marks a significant step forward in our community journey towards reconciliation. When complete, the Aboriginal Gathering Place will be a welcoming, inclusive and culturally safe space where Aboriginal people can enjoy a sense of belonging. I'd just like to thank the members of the Whittlesea Reconciliation Group and the Whittlesea Aboriginal Gathering Place Advisory Group for their work in bringing this vision to a reality. In recent weeks, we've reached milestones in a number of other significant capital works projects. The Community Pavilion at HRUN Recreation Reserve in Thomastown was finished. Host club Lalor United Slugger Football Club and the wider community will benefit from the pavilion's social space, kitchen, office, storage and viewing area. And the project also included an extension to the car park and a range of improved amenities for the comfort and convenience of users. A new roundabout has commenced, which will improve safety along a busy stretch of Barry Road near the Whittlesea Public Gardens. So that's now been completed. We've also embarked on a program to upgrade the cat shelters at the Watjering Animal Facility in Epping, and a project to refurbish the Janefield Wetlands Boardwalk in Bundoora has also been completed recently. Finally, local government elections are set to take place in October this year, where our community will elect a new group of councillors to represent them and act as their decision makers. I'd like to encourage those in our community who are passionate about making a difference to consider standing for council. If you're considering nominating as a candidate, please come along to one of our upcoming information sessions where you can have your questions answered. This week, there's a North West Region information session being hosted by the Municipal Association of Victoria at the Broadmeadows Town Hall. That's on Thursday evening, 6:30 p.m. And next week, we have our City of Whittlesea candidate information session on Thursday, the 25th of July from 2 till 4. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. And I do note that all of our verbal reports will be documented in the minutes. I note that we've got no items of confidential business, so that brings us to the end of the meeting, and therefore I declare the meeting formally closed at 7:13 p.m. Thank you.